If you've been around the channel for a while now, you know that I like to do these recap videos about each year. I did one for 2020, I did one for 2021, and right now I'm here for doing this for 2022. It's gonna be hard to describe how I feel about this year because there's been so much happening, so much changed throughout this year that I don't know if I will ever be able to list all of it. As usual, I will have a best video coming out this year in the end of 2022, but to point it out how much actually changed throughout this year I'm putting out 2 best videos. And for those who don't know, best, it's pretty much just a best of kind of video for this channel, but I like to include more to it than just what happened in one specific year. So on that note, oh boy, where do I start? So first of all, this year started with a bit of a downhill because I ended up breaking my pedals, the Logitech pedals. So not really a good start with waiting for the Fanatec pedals to arrive, and then after all that, turns out I had problems with the PC again. We thought it was power problems, so we looked into 2 things. We upgraded the house's cables because they were still pretty old cabling, and we were afraid that maybe I'm overpowering the house, which ended up being the case because if I would turn everything on at once, I could shut down the power meter in the entire house. And even after we did the upgrade and essentially got a separate line for my room, I was still able to shut down my own line a couple of times. So I had to change up how things work, how I turn things on in this room and stuff like that. I also had to switch out my power supply because it actually died on me throughout this year. I've upgraded to my first modular power supply and it was probably one of the best calls I could do. Outside of that, there were minor things like my Xbox One gamepad drifting on its own way too much to the point where I would have to order something else. By this time, both of them are fixed. But it wasn't just physical stuff that was changing around here. My schedule for videos changed throughout the year a lot. The way I produce content changed a lot, and the communities that I'm in also got expanded a lot. I moved away from SRS only to come back to it a few months later, and now thinking about moving away from it once again because pretty much nothing really changed on it and it feels like it's dying out kind of. I joined communities who host races on Sim Racing GP. I joined communities who mainly talk about sim racing and occasionally host races. I've started many new series on this channel, closed down a few and mashed them into one to reduce the amount of playlists I would need to keep track of, only to realize that I can just create playlists on my extra channel and save those playlists on the homepage of my English channel. I also realized that I couldn't do anything with the Hungarian channel, so I ended up closing that one down again. This time I kept everything up though. And just in the last month of this year, I also announced 2 projects that I'm working on. One being a passion project that I've been thinking about for years kind of. And another one is something that I was also thinking about doing but never really decided to make the jump. For those who don't know, I'm talking about Circuit Stage and my first ever mode for Assetto Corsa. Outside of all of that, I also got a job this year, which probably is the reason why I'm able to do all of this stuff that I want to do at the rate I can do it, because there's now actually no pressure on trying to do well at YouTube. However, not everything is sunshine and rainbows, and this year has been a perfect example of that. One example would be that I've tried my hardest to put up with my sleeping problems and I failed about 3 months into the year. Despite putting up everything I could, my mental health was not really the best this year. It was fluctuating. I had good moods, I had bad moods, and even though I'd like to think of 2022 as a really good year, I still cannot put past that my mental health didn't really improve, I guess. There were some interesting moments this year. I got to experience emotions that I thought I wouldn't. I think I may have fallen in love at one point as well. And while I know it didn't work out and there was no chance for it, I'm kind of glad that I got to experience that, because in previous years my expectations was that I would never really feel like that could be a thing. At the same time, I also felt like I don't really know who to really trust at times, which is something that I've always been struggling with in the past years, ever since high school, I guess. That's where it really kicked off for me. And while I feel like it's been a bit of an improvement over the years, there were moments in this year where I felt like I had some pretty big trust issues. There were plenty of times where I doubted myself if what I'm doing is a good thing or a bad thing, if I'm overthinking stuff, if I'm asking too much from myself, if I'm out of touch with my audience who I barely know, or at least that's how it felt like to me, that I barely know my audience. And one of the good things that came with this year was YouTube actually enabling community posts, because let's be honest, anyone who joined in for my Discord server knows that it's totally dead. Outside of me posting stuff that I found funny, there's very rarely a deep discussion, or there's really a moment where someone starts a discussion on their own and others jump in. And most of the time when that happened, it was mainly about, oh, physics, which sim is more realistic. Which I understand because, again, my channel is about sim racing. But yeah, so I'm glad that community posts are now widely accessible. I'm glad YouTube decided to split up the content into 3 different sections, because right now I can directly ask you guys, what do you like about the stuff I do? What are you looking up to? If I have to cancel something, I can tell you guys right on the spot. Even if it's mostly a phone-based thing, like I've noticed it, community posts don't really show up for me, at least on desktop, but I got into the habit of checking my phone for updates before I go to sleep. So I know that community posts can make a lot of difference with how people are getting informed. I tried multiple times to sum it up what I'm doing on this channel, but with how often things changed in this year, I just completely gave up on it. I gave up on trying to make sense with my schedule. I gave up on staying consistent with stuff, because at the end of the day, I can't. It's either something that I have control over or I don't have control over that causes me not being consistent. And I know some of you say, oh, just do what you want to do, that's perfectly fine. And while yes, it's perfectly fine for me and that's what I've been doing, I noticed that most of you either don't get notified about stuff that I put out or just simply don't care about it. Which again is why a good thing that finally there's a community tab, so at least I can ask the core audience, what would you like to see next? And there's no additional barrier for entry. You don't have to join the Discord server to get notified about stuff. And well, yes, I know that sounds like a generalization, and I understand there are some content creators in my audience who I race with on regular basis, so I understand if a good portion of those people never really check out my perspective of stuff, because they already have their own perspective. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there's about 270 people subscribed to this channel, and I get about 6 to 10 views on some of the videos that I'm doing because I like to do it. While I'm being told, just do what you want to do, we'll watch it. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
What I want to know is why Ted not doing this with us.
I have a feeling he got the better end of the deal.
Adam, you stop being pessimistic, okay?
You're loving it. You're having a fantastic time. Oh, don't push me off the track, man!
I thought it was fine.
What? I hope you never join the army because you literally just shoot your own flipping soldiers.
To sum it up, I feel like 2022 was a good year for me. There was plenty of stuff that was not really going well, but pretty much all of the problems that I had were solved over time. What wasn't solved was my mental problems, but I think I'm doing an okay job at managing what's currently going on with me, and I had no clue how to handle stuff at the start of this year, so I think I'm doing alright. We'll see how 2023 goes, but as of right now, I'm glad that I didn't stop in this year. I met so many great people, made so many good memories, and I'm looking forward to make many more next year as well. So stay tuned for that. And whatever you do after this is up to you, but I'm thankful that you decided to watch this video and spend this little time with me. Have a good day or night. I'll be seeing you around.